Amp speaker and voice changer install for Darth Vader Black Series. Here we go.
So if you're wearing your Vader helmet and you walk into a room, wouldn't it be nice if the Imperial March accompanied you, the breathing was constant, you didn't have to keep pushing a button and carrying a little side radio or something silly like that? Well, I've managed to work these all into one little fix. So I got an amplifier, and with that amplifier came the ability to play whatever else you wanted. So I've got the tracks. Here's how I managed to pull it off.
Added on voice mic, low profile personal amplifier board, one 19mm exciter in the cheek, the original speaker for the Black Series, and the original speaker from the personal amplifier on the top. If you want to see how I made this, check out the full how-to video. I've got the link in the description. Enjoy. All right, all. So what I am doing is I am integrating an amp, a voice amp, into this new version of the Black Series Darth Vader mask. This is the old version. You may or may not have seen my video out there. It turned out excellent in the end after eons of work. So what I'm really trying to do is, while I'm proud of what happened with this, but a lot of this was experimental, and it was with a board that was way too large, but it was the first one I bought. I didn't know that, the boards looked all that different on the inside. So I went with what I've got and I made it work. And I'm happy with how everything worked out. And I really learned a lot doing this. But what I don't want to do is put all that time in there. I don't know how many weeks I worked on this. I don't want to work weeks anymore. I just want to work hours, preferably. Anyway, so what I'm doing with this one is going with a different board. This one was a board that was probably like this big, and I had to squeeze it in there, and I managed, and it was tough. Whatever. Anyway, it actually goes out the speaker down at the bottom, and in the speaker that a custom speaker that I put in the top. It's great, but going out the bottom was a waste of time. It was a lot of extra effort. Let me adjust this camera. So I'm not going to do that on this one. I'm going to keep the original functionality without tapping into that. I say that now. Hopefully I don't deviate. Hopefully I don't find an excuse to deviate. But what I really want to do is try and do something efficient and quick that gives an OEM look, as if it's really Vader's helmet and not just some cosplayer with a microphone and a little box around his waist. And I want to take something like this. This Moukey. This is a godsend. This is my go-to because it's got a little circuit board in there that's only like this big. So this is my Mandalorian that I did, and I will show you the inside. I've got a video on how I did this, but anyway, that's the board. That is the board from inside this thing. Super small. It's as small as it's going to get, right? It actually had an L. There was and I think right here was a USB that came in, but I just snapped that off, and it didn't bother anything because I didn't need to use that USB. So then I got what I needed: TF card, the micro SD card, amplification, track control, mode control, ability to push my mic through there, and a volume control. That's really all I needed, all I want. This specific one doesn't have Bluetooth, so if you're looking for Bluetooth, you'll have to find something with Bluetooth. But this is my go-to. I don't want to deal with Bluetooth. So the micro SD card is cool because you can get your you can get the tracks of the breathing. The breathing and the Imperial March are my go-to tracks. So now I'm going to try and do a simple install of an amp with a speaker, and I may actually be able to reuse the speaker in the dome and actually use only the components that came with it. Wouldn't that be nice? Although the battery in this Moukey is actually larger than ideal. This is what these batteries look like coming out of there. So it's a little less OEM looking. I mean, it could be hidden in the dome or maybe in the face somewhere and spray painted or whatever to blend in. But it wouldn't surprise me if I end up swapping to one of these nice LiPo flat batteries. So Moukey is this is just a custom brand put on a V307. Buy these, you have to buy them through Alibaba, not AliExpress, and you have to buy them like in the hundreds or thousands in order to buy them. You can find, I think, one other version online called CallVi. Basically CallVi, but I think that's the Chinese branded one.
It's the CallVi V307. While you do have to buy in bulk from Alibaba,
and cannot get them on AliExpress. You can buy them on Taobao. Here's the downside. It's all in Chinese. There is no English option. Put on Google Translate and try and figure it out yourself. There is a catch. After you complete checkout, it's not going to ship to you because you're international, which is not clear. It'll have to go to a third-party shipper, and you'll have to jump through some hoops there. It's not intuitive at all. So you can get them. It's just takes a little work. So I'm glad I was able to call them and do an order. I'm not necessarily happy that I did a bulk order. But whatever. Worst case scenario, I start giving them away. So here we go. This is our Moukey, what it looks like, our awesome small board. Speaker with huge magnet on the back, right? And then our battery. Not the ideal battery, unfortunately. But again, this also has the stickum glue stuff, this red painted glue, so our parts don't fall out of the board. So we've got our auxiliary mic in, auxiliary in, TF card, SD card. I think I've put a 256 card in there before, even though I think it says it only accepts a lower number, but yeah, I've had no problem reading files on this. That's our charging port, our micro USB, our volume toggle. This is the speaker and this is the power. And then our USB in, if we so choose. But like I said, I could just, that's all I did last time. Works fine, because all you're doing is breaking the signal lines that go to this piece. No big deal. So, okay, so before I start to try and figure out how to put this in the mask, I figured I'd go ahead and show you how well this works. So I just have the mic hooked up right now. I've got it at the higher volume setting. It's sufficient. It will be enough to communicate with the folks around you. So if you don't know how to take this bad boy apart, I am gonna show you. I'm freaking old pro at this by now. You have to unscrew both the sides in order to take this front part out if you want to take that part out. That's where your speaker is if you wanted to access that. I'm not going to in this one. If you want to see how I access that in the last, or in my first version of the Vader helmet, go for it. Look in a different video somewhere. Hopefully I'll remember to link it in here. Otherwise, it's in my playlist, and it's the first Vader helmet redo that I did. So I really just want to get in this panel. I think I should be able to pop it out and pull this thing out. So what these do is these lock into this and into the front, and everything pops in. Your sensor, an electronic trigger, obviously, is right here. Not on this side. It's empty over there. And this is just where the posts go in, and it tells it when it's connecting or disconnecting. And if you didn't know, it has a struggling breathing for when the helmet's off, and normal breathing for when it's on. So now it thinks, oops. Now it thinks the helmet's on. So it gives the normal breathing sound. The problem is it only does like 3 cycles of it and it stops. And there's no actually ability to keep it going nonstop, which is what would be ideal, just to keep that breath going, because that's part of the character, right? So I'll have to do an additional add-on. Since this thing I'm going to put in there has a TF card that can go into it, that may be how I do it by default. So you see it's got these 3 different prongs that pop into that one. And then of course it's got this additional lip to kind of hold it in. It does have this button here, but whatever, it's not a big deal. All in all, I could have it here. Sorry, it's not focusing for some reason. I could have it here. You know what? I'm doing this. Watch. Boop. Here's pie. And I'll just verify that it still works before I go waste my time with it. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. We still work. Good to go. Moving on. And now we got our board more streamlined. And we don't need this thumb drive. Nonsense. Okay. So I think I found a solution. And what I've done is I've cleaned up this side. I kind of just shaved off some of that, because I think what I'm going to do is put it in something like this. Was it this? Yeah. So give access from below, and then I can also get to that. It's not the best spot, but there's fortunately a big enough gap in here that should allow a hand to come up in there. And then the only thing that'll be more of a challenge is, I mean, that's easy access for charging, that it won't always have a USB connected, so that'll just have to be an after thing rather than always having it connected. Auxiliary won't be used. Mic. So what I'm probably going to do is just tap into these things here and just rewire it out and not actually plug it in here. But I do have an elbow, and I can put it in here and run it out here. Just want to look as cool. So we'll see. But I think this is the route I'm going to go. So what I've done is I've kind of just seen where the red and the white line up and just kind of etched where those approximately are. And then I'm just going to Dremel that bit out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I just gotta get this one a little more here. And it looks like what I've got to not do is sink this too deep, because then my volume wheel will press up against this, and I don't want to press too much to the point where it, blocks the turning of the wheel. So. Okay, I tried to do it more of a, give me some flexibility there. Okay. So if I wanted to, I could solder bolt these off the board and get it flush up in there. I don't know if I just want to, I don't think I want to just waste my time with that. And of course I spray paint this silver and put some labels on the buttons. So I'm just going to do an interim dab of hot glue.
It turns out that the hot glue comes off if you didn't sand it prior. So I end up using 3M double-sided foam tape on it to hold it in place and then augment it with hot glue. You can jump ahead to the wiring top speaker amp prep section if you want to see that right now.
The plan is to have buttons accessible here. But what you could do is also, if you can't always get them accessible, get yourself something like one of these pre-made button kits. This is, just a flat strip, different kind of buttons. It goes to a wire, and you could wire and solder it to that board. Of course, then you'd have to run this down and put this on your wrist, or, wherever you want to put it. And maybe you don't want to deal with the power button or the mode button, so you don't actually accidentally press that. And then you could just do like volume up, volume down, play, pause, and forward, or, something like that, but whatever. It's just all different kinds of styles on, kind of hard to see, just a single button. This is a straight strip. Super handy depending on where you want to put it. But I got this idea based off my other one because I custom made the board for my first Vader helmet that went into the side. Not as hard as I thought it would be, but hard enough that I don't want to have to go through that labor again. So these were just a couple bucks, and I'm like, yeah, that labor was worth more than a couple dollars. So these are totally worth it. And these are higher quality, properly spaced, and deeper buttons. So if I wanted to push them through the helmet to have them accessible on the outside, I could, but I'm not going to do that this time. Just something to think about when you're doing it. I'm trying to keep it simple this time. Okay, so just to show the integration of the Windbridge battery into this board, here's something very important. A mistake you do not want to make.
If you're opting to put a lower profile battery that comes from somewhere else, some kind of third-party thing or a different device, make sure that your red lines and black lines line up. Some of these, they'll be wired differently depending on the manufacturer. And also, like this particular one I got from a Windbridge amp, it actually is a slightly smaller profile. The connector is smaller and the holes are slightly more narrow, but it's not a big deal. It'll still fit in there. You just kind of have to bend the wires a bit and jam it down, and all is good.
And then this battery, just probably gonna, man, this is so low profile. This should be easy. Oh my golly. Something I'm gonna do to avoid frying the board, and you'd be surprised, these boards are pretty resilient. At the number of times when I've just put that put the battery in and it was in the wrong way, you'll promptly smell burning, like burning plastic, and burning electronics. But you pop it out quick enough, no damage will be done. So I'm getting really lucky. Actually haven't managed to fry anything, I don't think. So I'm making sure that oh, sorry, not in the visual. I'm painting this essentially. So I remember black and red, and I'm going to make sure that I put black on the black part of this. I should have done it before I put it in there, but I just want to not shoot myself in the foot later. So basically I'm going to mount this here, then this should be good here, and then I'm going to put my wires through and run that up to the speaker in the top, and we'll see how we're going from there. So really what it comes down to now is I've got my power, I've got my audio. So my audio is not going to be in this lower portion, it's going to go up to the top of the dome, and we'll have to make that wireless by routing it through two of these pads, positive and negative through each, so it just goes up through the magnets. So I'll just need basically a wire to go from here with some just open naked lines, and I'll do those connections, and then I'll have to do the connections on the top up to the speaker.
Here is one, and it really depends on, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this back off. So we do tend to try and make these different sizes sometimes to keep you from jacking it up and putting the wrong thing in the wrong spot. So I'm just gonna try and get one that already matches. So this is a small of whatever those things are called. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I'm just winging it. Maybe I should go ahead and do a better temporary mount on this. Let's do this. Just gonna clean it up a bit. Something that I didn't want to mess up here was the fact that, so just by shoving it up there and trying to glue it and force it flat, you know, then it could end up lopsided and then blocking this wheel, which is our volume wheel. So I wanted to get some padding on top of this SD card thing. Actually, let me trim off this nonsense in front of it. That should be good. I think what I will do is I'll put some double-sided tape on there, and we'll go from there. Maybe I'll come back and augment it with hot glue later. Here, just some kind of 3M. I don't have no idea what I got it with or for. Or I have no idea what most of these are. I forget why I buy them. I know that I just try for variety, because sometimes, you know, what you think will work doesn't work. So I'll buy a few different things at once in hopes that one of them will have a chance at doing something viable. So again, this is just going to be a temporary solution until I figure out what I want to do, but I don't want this thing constantly falling off or hanging. And if it actually ends up strong enough, it may end up being a permanent solution if I don't need to move it. So before I end up wiring this lower portion in the jaw for the speaker, I'm going to go ahead and do the top part of the helmet first, and then we'll jump back to this. So what I have to do is I have to get up here, and I'm going to go up this side. So I'm going to go through this one and this one probably, and then run it just like I did in the previous version up to here. And then my speaker is going to be in here. So I think what I had to do before, grind out some of this. Well, I say grind, but I'm not grinding anything. How do we, yeah, we fit just fine, don't you, buddy? And then typically on speakers, it's going to be your positive on the right, on your negative on the left. Switching these up, I've never actually recall hearing a difference. Better safe than sorry, right? And I'm going to drill these out. I don't know if it's quarter inch looks about right, but I'm going to pre-drill them with something smaller to make sure that I get a nice centered hole. Handy gives me a nice small hole
and then it gets a little bigger. Whatever, then I'll come back. I suppose I could also use my Dremel and go and just kind of do it, and then just kind of start, kind of doing this stuff to get it exactly how I want it. But the other one came out pretty clean looking, and consistency is always good. Maybe I should use a center punch, but I'm not sure I have one handy. That's good enough. Yeah, 1/4 inch looks right. Perfect. Whatever, so there it is. Easy peasy. So essentially I just need to mount that in here, and I was just wondering, where to position my my wire to be most optimal. But really, if I have to end up going around because these are not the most intuitive things, then so be it. So I probably should glue it. I don't know if this is gonna actually hold it. Let's see. No, it's not gonna hold it. So it would be jumping around, so I will have to put some hot glue on it. Oh, so this vein essentially goes left to right, whatever. So this is my wires out. We're gonna point up with this arrow up to this vein. It's right here. Oop. So if you look for this notch, which is at the back, it's going to sit at the back, and again, this kind of cuts left to right. And it's, we just want to send it like this, because then that's going to put it down this thread that we want to run down the side. And then so I've just got that marked now. But before I mount that on, I'm going to have to put my wire, and this is where stuff like this old speaker wire comes in handy. And actually not a lot of shielding, but it's actually a pretty good gauge. What is this? .22. Yeah, that's more than sufficient. I'll go ahead and I'll use this. Black is a good color anyway. And I'll give myself probably a foot and some change. Worst case scenario, I can wrap it up there, or I can actually chop it at the end. So before I go chopping anything, so again, now all I'm doing is just trying to figure out how I'm going to run this up the side. Yep, there we go. So really, that's super simple-ish. I mean, that's one screw, but it's tightly on there. Probably because the eyes are screwed in, but all I need to do is get it to run up there. But I've got to be able to tether it onto these. Oh, that's right. That's right. I had to pry these open, so I must have pried that. I must have taken it more apart than I remembered. So I'm gonna get in, and I gotta get down to the metal on these bad boys, and that screwdriver is not sufficiently small enough. This one, however, should be. Huzzah. Okay, we got one. Let's get the other. All right, so we've got our two. I think all I did in the previous one was just pinch it. I just forced it. I put it in there, and I smashed it back together and kept it by that way. I don't know if that's right. I think that's metal, and then the magnet is actually in the middle. And let's see, these are going to repel, so there's probably a certain way I need to put them back in. I need to figure out what that is, but whatever for now. All right, so these. I don't believe I had this in the first video, but this is clean and simple and easy, as opposed to using something like this where it might take some of the wires with it. Okay, so I'm turning on my air, so it's going to get a little noisier, but I guess it's magnetized. I'm trying out a new soldering gun that actually feeds the solder to the tip while you use it. I think I've used this once before. I'm going to tin it. I'll use that for the speaker. Okay, so now I've cut this. Let's see what I cut it to. Oh, almost 22 inches exactly. So I'm going to strip the wires, that is. All right, I will not tin this because I'm probably going to have to squish it down like this. And push one side out. My daughter's crying, so I might have to step out here. I really just want to take care of this first. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to quickly try and do the second one. I'm going to pull these apart so it doesn't hijack me. So I'm sure this will go and try and jump to something and pull this out. All right, let's do this. Get that out. Put this in. What I'm going to do is also, I'm going to make a notch on the side. So I can get my wire out. And have the top go back on. Just going to go ahead and do my dab of super glue and just put this right back on. Look at that. That's great. Okay, so let's pull this in here. We have one here. And we're going to have one. Sure. Good. So I'm just going to mark. And the line mark, the line dash mark, is going to feeding to this one, to the second one. Or the other one is just a black cable. I was thinking about super gluing it in here, but I didn't want a gap down here because of the fact that I've super glued the other parts. Since this one's going to be shifting, so anyway, so I'm not going to super glue those in here. So I'll take my wires, run them up to the top. And it looks like I've already got a hole there that's available to me. Oh, but that's a screw hole, so I am going to, before I do this, I'm going to take this bit, I'm going to pop it right around in here, so you know if I come through, I'm guaranteed. Let me show you. As much as I'd like to come through the top, I think if I come through here, I'm more guaranteed to end up where I'm needing to go. Although, yeah, I'm going to do it that way. I think I'm going to have to drill through, and then I'm going to put this back together, and then it's going to partially cover itself up, and then I'll just drill through whatever it partially covered up. And then I'll be good to go. All right, right around here. What am I scraping? Sufficient. The tinning makes these a little too thick for that, so there we go. I've got that through. And yeah, as I recall, in my version 1, all I did was I left my excess in here. So that's all you gotta do. We've got one escapee already. Oh, now of course the other one jumps out. Everybody go for it. Run away. Get in there. Got our wires coming out. Now we gotta feed them in here. And I'm gonna have to trim out what I'll need for the speaker probably, but I'm gonna trim this. Definitely need that to not break my wire. And if you don't have these things, these are just wonderful. They're cheap and whatever, but I often wish I had more than one because I use it and misplace it and whatever. Okay. And I'll just assume right around here, whatever. This is a handy little glue gun because it heats up and then it's quote-unquote wireless, but it's not really wireless so much as it used to have power. Now it has no more power, but it still happens to be hot. And they market it as wireless. But it does have its benefits in that you're not dragging around a cord, but you can only get a couple minutes out of it before it ceases to be hot. I'm sure it's well overkill, but I got a nice solid bead around the outside, so it is gonna. The hot line is your positive, and the black one is the negative. So we will just solder to speaker as appropriate. As noted prior, positive is on the right, negative is on the left. So now I've got my positive and negative connected. Before I go too much further, I want to test it out. So it's on. Let's just go ahead and touch it to the speaker. So the speaker's good. This is good. So I just need to finish putting everything together, do my final last check, and then I will spray paint this board, permanently attach it. I do want to go ahead and test that this goes on. It looks, is it going to be too deep? Let's see. But I'm going to drill a pilot hole. Actually, I'll use this as a center punch. That's roughly center. This is just a husky. You can swap out the different bits on the tip for screwdrivers, like a mini screwdriver set, just to give you a glimpse. This is handy. So it's a lot of the mini stuff that you don't have available, even the like hex and star options. Yeah, anyway, it's cool. Those are actually the tips on it. So now let's draw this out. Just gonna pull my foam out a little bit. I did keep it a little attached. Now, I don't imagine there'll be any issue with depth now. Phone died, so before I close this back up, what I was able to do, all I did was end up taking an X-Acto, going like this around in a circle, get it all nice and clean. Then I also took this out because of the whole fact that I've got this leftover wire, and it's just easier. You don't know where it's going to end up landing. And then, of course, I mounted this on, but before I did that, I actually laid some hot glue next to this, because what I don't want is this pulling and bending on that speaker and then snapping off from any of the times when I might happen to open this up to do maintenance for something or whatever. Probably will never happen, but you know, even me just right now moving it around, I don't want them to break off. In the front there is an individual thing you got to drop in this hole. Everything else kind of falls into place. There we go. There it is. The magnet is partially through, but partially up. So, but whatever, yeah, it works. I'll put a dab of glue, just hot glue on here. Oh, there's that one I was looking for earlier. Must have been such a magnet. Oh, look at all these little... For a while on my version 1, I kept having issues with my mask being cockeyed, and I couldn't figure out why. Turns out that it actually had a screw stuck to it. Just keep that in mind if you decide to do this yourself. I'm going to put this back in. I will not do the modification that I did on version 1 because I don't need to. Let's verify by testing again. Remember, I marked this so I wouldn't forget what's what. This is my positive. So I'm actually going to, rather than put the lines on there, I'm going to mark it with positive. This one's negative. I ended up putting the board on the charger. Now I've got it hooked up to one of my uniquely built cables that just has a bunch of different ends on it because I just got tired of building new cables, so I made one that like connected to everything. And I've got a speaker already on it to know that the board is functioning now that I've got a charge in it. And now I'm going to test the helmet. So I've got my positive and my negative. Put my negative on. There we go. A lot more punch. That's just one comparison. If you're thinking about going with the cheap speaker to save money, this is at max volume. What I want to do is run your stuff through, what is it, Audacity or something like that, and amp it like 18 decibels. This top bit, it's done. And everything's screwed back together. I don't need to do anything else with that anymore. Now we just have this. Before we permanently mount it, I'm going to disconnect it from my little test wiring. So we've got this. And what I'm going to do is twist. And now I'll connect it to my plates. Verifying what's what. It's verifying what's what. Now I messed this up earlier, so I need to put my negative mark over here. Actually, you know what? I've got the appropriate tool for this. This one's made by Micromark. I would not recommend it. Normally they make some pretty good stuff, but this is kind of garbage. It's like you put any reasonable amount of pressure and it just it taps out. Even with a full battery, you can lightly etch things in, but I used to have one that was a plug-in, and man, that thing would just, I could carve into keys. This is, I'm struggling on plastic. So this is not ideal, but it gets the job done. It's a little slower and whatever than I prefer. And I'm sure there's got to be some other options out there. I've already got this, and so now to verify, so I don't get anything backwards. There's my negative, there's my positive, and I'm going to carve it in. I'm like lightly hovering, well, not above it, but just like barely allowing it to go in, because if I try and get it in there, it just stops spinning. So this is by no means a replacement for any kind of Dremel. refrain from mistakes. If I do this like I did last time, I just slipped it under this and gave it a good pinch. And I'm going to reinforce with a little hot glue. Hot glue just it peeled right off. So I put a little super glue on there, and then if you're not aware, if you have like baking soda or graphite or anything that's really in like a powder form, if you add it to super glue, because you know super glue can be strong, but then as soon as you like hit it, it breaks off. But if you add any kind of powdery stuff, it turns it into like a cement, and it really freaking locks it in. So that's what I've done. That's this on here. Let me verify that this still works and that didn't ruin the connection. Perfect. So just, this is what comes out of the Moukey. I need to paint this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime it, and I'm just going to use, this is what I have on hand. This is like white, but I think what I'm going to do is paint it with a gunmetal rather than black, because then I can actually write the labels on it for what the buttons can do. Oh, and you can see what I did was I put something in my mic slot, because what I don't want is that one jacked up. The auxiliary I can tolerate. If I had another one immediately handy, I'd have put it in there, but I don't think I'm going to use it. Ooh, and I didn't take my card out, which actually is fine because then it protects that port. And I'm just going to toss some gray on there. Oh, that's like super silver, huh? Well, that's what we're going with. Okay, so I come back in after painting it, being concerned that this might have been an issue, how I did it, that it might have made a metallic connection in between any of the circuits and screwed something up, but it didn't. I'm going to put my labels on here. Maybe I'll throw a lacquer on top of it or something. I don't know.
So here's how I did the labels on the board.
So now that's painted, and it's a matter of just getting this on. And what I don't want to do is right now, because I put that little strip of tape, it's now sitting on this thing. But what I need is a buffer there. And I might go ahead and use the hot glue again for this context. Hopefully sorry. I'm just jamming some hot glue in there and so I've got a nice gap. Can roll my volume, push my buttons. All I need to do now is really just mount my battery, and I've already put adhesive on here. Floating around in here is fine, as long as it's not in the way of this, which comes in and out. And our screw points, and other than that, there's not, the piece doesn't go that close to the side to where it's gonna steal from this, so it's got plenty of floating room. So I can just go ahead and mount it however. Just gonna go ahead and connect it. Make sure black and red line up. And we are good. Okay, so what I would say here at this point is you would want to decide if you're doing this. You want to decide, do you want this? You could lock this in. I could hot glue this, whatever, make it permanent, and that's fine, right? This is a 1050 milliamp hour. You know, if it was something like an 1800 or 2200, which actually I do have, then I'd probably be more comfortable in locking it down. But if you went to a convention or something and you wanted to swap it out halfway through because you ran out of battery, then if you hot glue all this down, then you've kind of shot yourself in the foot. But so it's just something to think about for which, if you want it to be able to be swapped out. And then you could also have this built a little differently if you want to remote it out here and have the wires or something like that, or whatever. You could actually maybe even cut oh no, you've got to have this blocked. If you consider that, you wouldn't want this below that. You could just have this a little further forward, and then you could have actually just an opening where you could slide batteries in and out and be able to pull them out, and if you had it finger wide, and or something like that. Anyway, just ideas, something to think about before you try and make anything permanent. Okay, so I just looked up the wind bridge, which I pulled the battery out of for the 1050, and it says 5 to 8 hours if you're just doing music, and 3 to 8 hours if you're doing mic. If you're doing a combination, I imagine it's even less. But it also said that span of 3 to 8 or 5 to 8 is based off of your volume level. So that kind of gives you an idea. So I'd kind of assume in the 5-hour range or something like that, you might be able to get out of this. So, make your decision accordingly. Of course, with the 3000, I'll last quite a while. But some of these little 600s or something, like if there was a little slit and you can pop it in and out, that'd be great. But whatever. Think about it. Do what you want to do. And good luck with that. I'm going to use this for now. Let me go ahead and tape it in. And again, there's just some 3M tape I threw on the back of here. That's what I used as the temporary tape for the amp board. I'm just going to slip it behind here, behind this little screw rod bit. Keep it out of the way of this. And kind of lean it closest to this thing over here. It's not fully seated, but it's not really a big deal because it's going to be in here and it's not going to fall out or anything. I'm actually going to pop this side out. Let's see, did I get them all out? Okay, let's just take it off slowly in case this is built differently. Okay, yeah, so here's your electronics that are built in. I'm just going to push this right here. So another thing is what you'll notice is if you don't have it hooked to a speaker down here, then you'll be curious, is the thing on? Is it working? And then maybe the volume's at the wrong setting and so you can't hear anything. So what I'm thinking about doing is causing myself more heartache and work and entering an additional requirement for myself, which is maybe putting in another speaker, which might be something like this, which is an exciter, but it's only really good if I can get a nice flat spot, which this might work. I figure it would work perfect right here, but I don't know. It'll probably sound like it's echoing in my right ear all the time, and that wouldn't be great. So maybe in here, but it's got to be flat. It's got to be flat or really close to it. And this is a bit curvy. So I'll just show you what I'm talking about here. Let's bring this back. Let me go ahead and just snip a wire off to give myself a little less heartache right now. Give myself more than I'll need. Here's my positive. It's going to go here. But I do think I've been frustrated enough by, is the board not working? Is it on, or is it turned on, or is it turned off? Or is it the volume? So I've already got the speaker. It's easy to put it in because all you got to do is just link it right in to what already exists. The only bit I have to do is just, take off this faceplate. But I figure I had to do that for the mic anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I will go ahead and do this. And I'd need to wire it to the correct one, which would be back here, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a squish on it, even though I'm not sure. I'm not positive I'm going to add another speaker, but I probably not. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and clamp these in. But I am certainly not going to use the existing speaker, because I'm not going to put in a switch again to deal with that. And this is extreme hole duct tape that I'm putting in here. Okay, so I just dropped a couple beads of solder on here to lock this in. I really like the speaker. I found some that's similar to it, but it's fine. This one's nice and low profile. I also did drop some beads of solder on here. No big deal. It was working fine without it. So again, that's just an exciter by itself. Barely sounds like anything. If you can hear that. I'll put it right next to it. But as soon as I put it on something too, it uses the phone as the speaker. Try here. What about over here, since I've already got a battery over there? That's doable. Okay, so that's all the way up. Which in the top speaker would be blasting. For this one, it'll be sufficient. But it's like you'll have to adjust the volume if you take the mask off. And now I'm gonna plug in the mic and just verify on that. Test 1, 2, test. You don't know the power. So I might just go ahead and pop it on here. See if I can permanently mount this speaker. I know where I want it. It's just a matter of all this moving of stuff around. I don't want to keep doing it and break something off. So it's going to go in here. So what I prefer to do is this. It's nice and flat over here, mostly. And something I do remember is that if you don't sand it, it won't adhere as well. We just got some lighter grit. I mean, this isn't the lightest, but a medium-ish grit sandpaper, and I'm just gonna get it nice and rough in there. So when that adhesive sticks, it's not prone to slip sliding off. Let's clean out the dust, make sure it's not in the way, and let it dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna put it down. Now, something I don't know is how well it actually is going to go beneath this, so that might be a problem. I'll have to trim. It looks like I've got gaps. It should theoretically be sufficient. I'll run it along the blue lines to keep it similar. I think that should get me around in the right-ish spot Just slip under there. Might actually just use the same wire guides, which would make sense. Yeah, that fits right in there. So that's handy. That works really well. And it gives me slack. Follow it up there. Get enough slack for down here. That works well. It's sharp on the underside of that board. Let's get you out of there. Okay, here we go. We're going to commit. Okay, come on. See if we can get this out and make sure it's got a good seat. It looks like it's sticking, but no, it's not. It is not a flush location. Doggone it. An illusion. Maybe right here, actually. This looks like it's flushish. Just trying to give it some good pressure and a little massage in there to hopefully get it to stick well. It feels like it is. Not sure why it looks like some of the adhesive is hanging off. Let's just see what it sounds like to test it. That's plenty. That's plenty. That's gonna do well. Because I'm at a pretty low setting right here, and it's not bad at all. So, yeah, good. But what I haven't done yet is the mic, as far as placing it inside. I'm not gonna wear it around my head. Of course, you could opt to wear it around a head, plug it in there, wear it around your head. But it kind of kills the whole vibe if you take this off. I mean, it'll work great, but I don't know. I like things built in. So if you're going for quick and easy, that would be the way to do it. But if not, you've got to, if you want to take the mic apart, you peel this bit off, you unscrew here, and then now you've got your mic on its own, right? Okay, so I'm actually going to snip this off, and then I will use this as my flat mount somewhere on the inside. So I might end up moving this battery to somewhere more helpful. So like the perfect spot for this would actually kind of be right here, because that's about where my mouth is. Although it might catch your breathing. The first one I did, I routed it up like near one of these, and that's totally viable. just kind of looking at putting it in here and actually this side out rather than putting it flush against, just to ensure that the directional mic, I think I said omnidirectional earlier, but these, while they might have some capabilities, this is very much a directional mic. So if this is right towards your mouth, that's when you're going to get the best. So I don't want to have to twist it around. So I think what I'm going to try and do is get something like this, so I can just pop it up and just have it pop right here. And then if I pull the top off, then I could just kind of push it over. So something like that, I think, which would then involve probably just taking a little notch out of here. I could try and put it through this, but I'd have to dissect the whole top of that to do this without making a huge hole in here. Or I could put the thing right here. No, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to make a notch. So that's what I'm doing now. I think my lips are right around in here. So they should be flush in front of my mouth. Actually, that might actually be a bit better. I like it, so I'll do that. Now, on my previous mask, I did have it coming in on the side, basically this side, and it did come over, and it came out right in between here, and that ended up bending and coming across, and I constantly had to move it and stuff like this. So this should kind of just make it default right in front of my mouth, so that'll be good. And now I'm going to, okay, now I think I might just leave this in here free for now, and then if that's a problem, I'll come back later and fix it, but I think I want some adjustment until I find the right height. And then what I might actually do is just shove a little bit of foam or something into the hole to keep it steady. But I don't have any issue with this floating around in here, especially when I am not positive this is exactly right. So. Oh, I've got this right on a screw. I should have a screw joint, and I think it'll probably have something that goes over it. So, worst case scenario, I'll just trim this seat, actually. Let's do that now. That should do it. And on that note, I'm actually going to find that soundtrack online, or worst case, record it. So in those instances when I take the mask off and I want to continue breathing, I can get the more accurate wheezing instead. It's a little stuck in there. So really, it looks like there's probably some stuff I need to cut out right in here. In the first version, I basically took out the whole side. And one of those, on one of the sides. I might be able to cram this in here, but it'd be nice if it was just something comfortable. If I ever have to open it back up, but I can put it back together pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to try and figure this out. Okay, I am getting a little too pinched in here. for my comfort. Just gonna jack up the rubber on this thing. If you don't have rubber on yours, it wouldn't be anything to worry about. And some of my other mics they're just black metal, and they actually look a lot nicer than this, but I'm sticking with this because it's all part of the Moukey to try and keep it at least as much of the original as I can. We'll see if we can take some of this out. Okay, I just picked up a little tool that's going to make this a little easier, while also being a little messier, which unfortunately I just screwed the other side on, so oh well. So that was just a Dremel with a, I don't know, I think it's like a diamond encrusted tip, which is not necessary for plastic, but it was on there and it helps for metal or whatever I happen to be cleaning up a little bit. Oh, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. Okay, so I do still have to figure out how I'm going to do the mic. Now, I do have an elbow that I'll be putting on here. So I'll probably say it again later, but my logic here is sometimes you have a squealing mic, and it's just so nice to be able to just yank it out. I'm going to try it on again. I'm pretty sure I tried it on with this before, just to verify. But worst case scenario, then just solder onto the top of the mic input, or the bottom. But that'll probably bring the wire out somewhere around here. So if you saw my first version of this, there are 100 times more wires, a lot thicker gauge, I think, crammed in this side, so this is totally doable. What I ended up having to do for space constraints was tape a lot of these things to the side to really force them into place. I might have to do that when I find out the place that they actually need to be, which this might actually be fine. Okay, so I've just got to put this in there. I think just bringing it right in here is good. Not under there. Yeah, that's good. I'm just going to try it on to verify it fits like this, but I'm not going to leave the wire like that because I don't want it to get permanently pinched and end up breaking, so I'm going to make a little notch there if this works out all right. And yes, it fits all right. It rides just kind of, on the side of your neck, so I can feel it, that it's not an issue. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little, this will be where I pull this out. I'm just going to put a little notch up here. that's great. That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so that mic isn't adjustable to be able to push back down because it was too high. It was almost up at my eyes. So let's see what we can do here. Okay, I found my problem of when I push it all the way back, I was able to, I guess, get it back all the way back here, but then this can't bottom out like it's supposed to. So I just kind of need to clean this up a little bit. Starting to get all taped up in here. That's okay. Really, it'd be better to tape it to the inside of this. That way you'd have your battery free, but right now I'm just trying to make sure I got a good solution, and then whenever I have to come back and fix it, I'll take care of it then. But I think this is good. Let's see if I can just get away with this. No, I think that's right in the middle of it. That's right in the middle of it. Oops, don't take out the tote. Oh well. Not a big deal. Actually, it clips in anyway, it's fine. Yeah, I think this actually powers up whenever you put a micro SD or plug in the headset. It'll auto power up. So that's nice. So you should expect to hear your speaker anytime you plug it in. All right. Just throw my screws back in. Not sure where all the other screws went, but we only need two. I'm not sure if any of these holes ended up covered up by the wires by accident, which is quite possible. All right, so before I screw the rest of them in, it looks like we're golden. We've got our speaker mounted here for the lower half. So knowing that most of you might be interested in integrating a voice changer as well, I kind of did this last minute. I don't need it myself, but I'm doing this for the rest of you. So this is an M11 voice changer, and I use this instead of an i9 because it's much smaller. You can see in the blue, you got pitch adjustment, and that's if you're going to use male, female. I found that I liked using uncle, which I think makes your voice a little deeper maybe, but it also gives some reverb. So if you get this voice changer and bring it down to the board, it's a little smaller than what it was originally. You can go either way. But this way you can squeeze it in next to your cheek, and because this one has a built-in mic, I found positioning it this way was the best. I also put a little piece of tape over the mic to act as a sound baffle. So because the voice changer has its own mic, we need to wire it directly into the amplifier. So all we can do, based off of our original design, was unplug our mic that's already plugged in and plug in this voice changer. Now, alternatively, what you could do is, if you're going to use the voice changer and you don't want to do it like I've got it pictured here, what you can do is you could solder that mic off the board of the voice changer and solder your like boom mic directly into this board if you so choose. But that's an alternative. And here's a sample of what it sounds like if you're using Uncle.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Okay, so it's together. It works. Yes, I still have these on to protect this. My 2018 version is all scratched up there. Anyway, so you can hear the mic works. And again, it's directional, so the closer it is to your mouth and in this direction, the better it is. So it's fine for just like this. When I put the mask on, what I do is I've got this pretty tight, and it pulls all this up. So then I'll basically be like this by default. So perfect. Just work with yours however you got it. If you leave yours a little looser, you may want it a bit longer, so you may want to give yourself a little bit more slack. I can't really tug it and pull it out without fear of breaking it, and I don't want to do that this late in the game, right? You can hear me, of course. The struggling breathing still works. Okay, I'm back. So we've established this all works. What I haven't done is play the card. And what I find is the easiest thing to do is just pop the card out and pop it back in, and then it will start playing. It's easier than finding the right button. So it's good volume. Okay, here's low. Just barely on. Yeah. Maxed. And then if I'm near you, it's really good volume. I just wish the mic would pick up as well. Yeah, it's not. It does fine here. Yeah. Maybe there's a frequency set for this specific speaker, but whatever, it works. There's the intent. So what I'll do is I'm going to get that version on my track. So in helmet off mode. Okay. Okay. Because of the way. Well, okay. The volume is barely on. The volume's barely on, and it seems pretty loud. The way I have my helmet, I keep it very tight, which brings this up and back. I can look down, I can look around, and I don't have the helmet sloshing around. Forces that mic right up to my lips. It's literally just sitting against my top lip, which is perfect for pickup. Test, test, test. Test, test. I thought it was still coming from this somehow. Yeah, so the speaker's over here, so I'm always going to be thinking it's coming from that way. So what we did was we took a Moukey, we cut out the main board, we put it in here, and then we snipped part of it off. We snipped off the USB, and this is what it looks like here. Simple, slimline. Did a paint job, did some labeling with a Sharpie, and then remoted my original speaker in the top of the dome, which is optional if you choose to put in an exciter down here, which would actually probably be a lot less work. Well, not a lot less, but just a little less. But I went overboard on this as usual, but it's part of the process, part of the fun, part of the frustration, but part of the payoff. So it works out in the end. Anyway, so we've got our mic just kind of goes out Again, I intentionally kept it on the outside rather than just soldering it on the inside. So I can do this in case it ever starts screaming and I can't hit the right volume button in time before my ears blow up. And again, we're running a positive and a negative up through the sides of the jaws, up into the helmet to feed the speaker in the top of the helmet. That's the original Moukey speaker. So we've got the Moukey board, the Moukey speaker, and then there's something, oh yeah, the Moukey mic right here. So the entire Moukey setup is in here with the exception of the plastic box. And then added a, I can't remember the name of the brand, but it'll be on the write-up. Okay, so I can't find that brand. It starts with a T. Anyway, it looks like it's might be cheap, but it's actually a good punch of a speaker. Something similar is this Dayton Audio. This is the 19 millimeter. So if you just find a 19 millimeter, it's actually got a big, nice, solid footprint rather than a little skinny one, because I did get a Dayton that is a nice, minimalist form factor, but it's not enough. So it's, yeah, and that's what's right here. And yeah, this is, I think, about as flat as it gets, and so it's mounted on there on the inside. So that speaker runs around, connects to the same setup. Yeah, I want to say easy peasy. I mean, but it took me, I don't know, 15 hours, 15, probably not 20. Nah, I don't think it was 20, maybe 15, maybe. Anyway, to make this, it'll be a lot quicker the next time, and it should be theoretically quicker for you, knowing the struggles that I've gone through and where you can shortcut and not use some of the things I did. So anyway, that's it. This does push into your neck right around here, but not viciously. But you'll need an elbow because the Moukey is a straight mic, so that's an add-on. Where's that elbow there? Let's see, minimal cutting. And again, only just if you cut it here and it's automatically wanting to fall that way, so it just drops it right in the middle of your mouth. Adjust it before you lock this side down. It's golden. All right, hope that helped. Okay, one last note before I go. So one thing that I was thinking would be better is if I could run a fiber optic from the board up to this thing here, maybe even when one of these light slap spots, to show me that I know that the board is on in case I'm ever pressing buttons. I'm like, is this thing working? Is the battery dead? But it is there, and it turns out it's actually a larger light that's under a foam pad. Of course, that's where my M is for mode, but it seems to peel back and get a bit brighter, so it might actually be bright enough for me to know if I had the helmet on and it was dark, whatever. But it is also big enough where if I want to, I could put a fiber optic on there and run it up and actually have a visual display. I'd probably use a thicker fiber optic. That helps with a bit of user experience, so you know the thing's on.
If it helped you out, give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments. Feel free to subscribe. Take care. I'm out.